Welcome, fellow entrepreneurs, to the Amazon Sellers School podcast, where we talk about Amazon wholesale and how you can use it to build an e-commerce empire, a side hustle, and anything in between. And now, your host, Todd Welch.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode here. Today, we've got my friend Danan Coleman on the show. He is an Amazon seller, but has since moved into actually working for a company in the world of Amazon. He's currently the director of sales for Trace Fuse, which is a company that removes negative reviews. And I wanted to record this episode with Danan to show you that the knowledge that you're gaining from selling on Amazon, if for some reason you decide that I'm not interested in running a business, or maybe it's just not working out for you, all that knowledge that you collect can be used to potentially get a six-figure job in the Amazon space. So Danan, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. I appreciate you inviting me, and I'm so glad to be here. So yeah, like Todd said, every day that you spend on Amazon is you're building value to somebody, mostly yourself, right? That is ultimately why you're doing this in the first place, you and your family. So Todd, should I go into like a bit of my history and how I crashed into Amazon and stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure. Let's take, 5-10 minutes and talk about your background, because it is really interesting. You gave the full story at our Tampa Bay Sellers Amazon meetup. So We can link to that video if people want to check it out to see your full story. But just give us the 5 to 10 minutes kind of cliff notes, because it is a really interesting story on how you got into Amazon.
Yeah, cool. No problem. So I would say that I have a pretty decent rags to riches story. So in 2010, I was a traveling salesman and consultant. I worked for a chiropractic consulting company, and I onboarded new clients. And one morning, I was on my way to work on my motorcycle, and a school bus pulled in front of me. And I tell people I got hit by a school bus, but the truth of the matter is that the school bus turned in front of me just as I was entering the intersection, and I slammed into the side of it. I broke an enormous amount of body parts and ruptured internals and stuff like that. It was a good attempt at, but anyhow, so that's actually my impetus story into Amazon. So as a salesman, when I was in the hospital on morphine, I told my boss, hey, I'll be back to work next week. I was definitely on drugs. I was not making it back to work. It took me months before I could even walk properly again and stuff like that. But so what I did is I started outsourcing my sales skills because I had to work from home. And I knew that the internet was the only way that I was going to make money. And so we started selling, in order to make ends meet, we started selling absolutely everything that I didn't have to have, all the way down to our couch inside our house. And then that's not a joke. We sold all my tools, what was left of my motorcycle, which was the lower 3/4. We sold our couch, we sold tables that we didn't have to have. And in that time, my wife started getting really good at positioning products for people to stop and buy them. And right around that time, a buddy of mine who was running a vitamin company just happened to mention to me, oh, hey, I just put my vitamin on Amazon. And I was like, ding, wait, you don't have to be an inventor. You don't have to be GE or Bissell or whoever. So I said, well, can I sell it too? He said, yeah, cool, no problem. I'll sell it to you for this price. And I went, okay. So I didn't have any money at this time. So I said, hey, is it okay if I just buy it from you after I sell it, one bottle at a time? And luckily he was 5 minutes down the road from me. So I actually started selling on Amazon. This was 2010. So we started selling on Amazon early 2010, and I would drive down to him and pick up a few bottles after I sold them. And, at that time, $500 a month in profit meant the difference between losing my house or losing my car or whatever. I was $500, and I was able to make that in profit, just literally just so. And we were able to keep our house, and because we were on the verge of medical bankruptcy. I had $200,000+ in medical bills, and when I thought I had insurance, I didn't. So that's a naive 20-something-year-old. Ooh, how old am I now? Anyhow, we won't go into that.
You didn't have insurance, so how did you think you had insurance, but you didn't?
So me not being trained, I called my insurance company this was just a motorcycle that a friend couldn't ride, and so I was riding it. So I didn't actually own this motorcycle. And I just called them and I said, "Hey, am I covered under any vehicle I drive?" And they're like, "Yeah, absolutely. Any vehicle you drive." I said, "Okay, well then why would I get motor insurance? Like, I don't care about the motorcycle. I just care about my body, right?"
Sure.
So it didn't matter to me. The motorcycle was inexpensive, a few $1,000s or something like that. So I thought that the insurance covered the motorcycle, and that because I had car insurance, that my body was covered. Now, after the fact, when I gave all my insurance information and we started putting in claims, they got denied. And I called them. I said, "Hey, look, last June I called you and I specifically asked you the question, am I covered under any vehicle I drive?" And their response was, "Oh, well, a vehicle is anything with 4 or more wheels." I went, what a very convenient definition that applies only to you.
Yeah. Ouch.
So, yeah. So I learned a hard lesson on that.
Yeah. Never trust the insurance company.
No, an insurance company is not looking out for your best interest. They're looking out for the best deal for themselves.
Correct. Yep.
So
looking to make a profit.
Exactly. So now I was not at fault in this situation. The bus driver actually entered an intersection when I had a green. So I got here's the next doozy, is that I only got $100,000 from the school district because they had a cap on you can only get $100,000 per claim, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense for the city, but I think it should be more along the lines of, hey, look, if we're at fault, we have this cap, but if your legitimate expenses go beyond that, then we'll cover it. But the school board, I just sent in a request once. I said, look, I am drowning here. I have to pay for all these medical bills at my hospital and my aftercare. And the school district just sent a letter saying, sorry, you signed a thing saying that that we don't care.
Ouch. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was I to do at the time? Like, yeah. So with that 100,000, we hired a lawyer and he negotiated everything down, and his expenses were significant, but he did lower everything down. And then I got I think 18,000, and I used that to negotiate the $30,000 or $40,000 that I had owed outside of the hospital. And I managed to clean up all of those medical bills with that $100,000. So that did work out. Now, that's a long story to tell you this is how I got on Amazon. The silver lining to that whole thing is that forced me into becoming an entrepreneur and having to figure out how to make money online. And it started with, at that time, it was Craigslist, right? Facebook Marketplace, I think maybe it just started or had not yet started. And even if it had, it was clunky at best. Still pretty clunky, actually.
Yeah, it never keeps seeing improvement. But yeah, Craigslist was the beast back then. It's where you sold everything. Yeah.
So we sold enough to float by. My wife was basically my full-time nurse. Like, I'm in a wheelchair at this time. She has to help me just to get to the bathroom. I couldn't walk. Very interesting, the things that happen to the body when it experiences so much damage. But anyhow, I think that's enough of that. The point is that we got into Amazon, we started selling supplements, and then a year or two later, after selling just this one supplement, and we were only doing one, uh, a buddy of mine came to me and like, "Hey, can you sell this supplement for this brand I'm working for?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can." And that one went like gangbusters, and we 10x our metrics in like 2 months.
Now, were these vitamins products that you listed brand new on Amazon, or they were already selling on there and you sold on the listing?
So both of them were already selling. One of them, I mean, one of them was a brand new listing. It was like a month old, and when I started selling on it, so you can call that one new. But the other one had been selling, I think, for a little while. It was like an amino acid, and these guys were the main distributor of this. Was a doctor's office that I partnered with on this amino acid, and they were the main distributor for this vitamin, and they wanted us to help capture the Amazon market because they themselves couldn't sell on Amazon per their
Hmm,
whatever agreement, but
sure.
they could sell to me and do a profit share. So in order to, and mind you, this is early days, this is 2011, 2012 or something like that at this time. um, they wanted to capture the market because on Amazon, the price was being driven down to nearly below what their cost was, right? So what I did is I started selling on this listing. I went, well, hell, let's just make a whole bunch of other listings. And so rather than this is before virtual bundles and all that stuff, and even before the software came out for virtual bundling, but which I don't even remember what that is. But we started um, shrink wrapping 2 packs, 3 packs, singles with a sample, 2 packs with a sample, and 3 packs with a sample. And that meant that we took over the entire first page of Amazon for this supplement. And then eventually we had 90+% of the buy box of the original listing as well. Um, so that was how we kind of, and then we incrementally raised the price to where it should have been. So we were able to raise the price like $15 or something like that.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So you got into selling supplements, and it sounds like that went quite well. So
Yeah.
over what period were you growing those vitamins? How long of a time frame?
So let's see, 5+ years on both of them.
And all
Uh,
on consignment?
one of them, the my very first product, we just purchased that and shipped it in. So that one we just paid wholesale and shipped it in. But we had exclusivity to that product on Amazon at this time for about 5-6 years, something like that. The other one we got, like, I was not going to pay them for the inventory, so I told them, you just give it to me on consignment. It was a profit share, so that's what I negotiated with them, is consignment. And that's kind of how that's been my model since, is get the product, get exclusivity to the product from the manufacturer, get the product on consignment, and just pay them once a month.
Yep. Very good. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, that's a good model if you don't have a ton of cash to output, or even if you just don't want to put all your cash out there. I mean,
Yeah.
wholesale is super cash intensive if you're buying all the product.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't like, when I get started, I had no cash. Like,
Yep.
the only thing I had was sweat equity, and that's what I offered to people, is like, look, I'm trustworthy, and I'm stuck in a chair. I've got time. So I will help build your brand on Amazon.
Yeah, and I think what's important here too is before this, you had never sold on Amazon. So you're learning all this stuff on the fly, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But these companies are still trusting you to sell your product because you just starting out, you still know a lot more than what they probably knew about selling on Amazon.
For sure. And by the time that I started talking to brands to get exclusivity to them and stuff like that, I had several years experience. Well, my wife and I.
Mhm.
I can't actually, she's the real brains behind the operation. I'm just a pretty face that can convince people of things.
Yeah, very good. So you're the salesperson, she's the operator.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right.
That makes a good team.
Yeah, it really does.
All right.
So,
So you're building up this Amazon wholesale business,
yep.
and how big were you able to grow it, if you don't mind sharing? And then where did the shift come into actually working for some of these different companies?
Yeah, so we ran super lean. Um, I I only had realistically I only had one advertising campaign. So when we started, there was no PPC. I think at that time it was an invite or a beta test.
Mhm.
FBA was invite only. And by the time we got into doing other people's products and getting exclusivity, I'll tell you this, I've never hit seven figures in a year in terms
Okay.
of sales. However, I never scaled nearly to what our potential was because what was important to me was my time with my wife, you know, and that was kind of a hard rule of mine. I wanted the least amount of work possible for the most amount of money I could get. So I've never been a seven figure a year seller. However, my profit margin was insane, especially to today's standards. Like it was like 60 plus percent across
Wow.
all of our products.
Wow,
So
that's amazing.
yeah, so you know, I was as time went on, these relationships changed. I went direct to the factory on one of these things on the amino acid because the doctor's office that was selling it created their own and didn't want to sell through me. And so I went direct to the factory. That lowered my price significantly, raised my margin. We brought on a beauty brand out of Slovakia. Our price on per unit landed was $12 and landed at Amazon was $12 and we were selling them for 50, something like that, or
Very
54.99 or something like that.
much.
Uh, so it was and then we spent years just traveling around the world, visiting, just staying with family, stuff like that. So I don't want to poo-poo on anybody's parade. Like there's a lot of seven-figure sellers out there, seven-figure sellers out there. Uh, and but there's a lot of people that work really hard for those seven figures that never made as much money as I did, you
Yeah.
know? And I didn't make a lot, you know what I mean? Like a few hundred grand a year that's a lot of money to do things, you
Yeah,
know?
for sure. That makes a big difference in a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. We could do anything we wanted, you know? And so I spent it on things that I got no ROI on. Not recommended in the long run, but we had a great time. This is pre-kids, you know.
Mhm.
We had a wonderful time. But yeah, so that kind of brings us up to um me getting into the software side.
Mhm. Yeah, so from
So
you're built up this Amazon business. It's making you a couple few hundred thousand in profit a year,
yeah.
and now you shift into actually working in the Amazon world.
Yeah, so here comes my next I went rags to riches and then this is the next rags part of the story.
Okay.
So originally I went to work I went to Philip who was the CEO and founder of Managed by Stats. I've known him many years. I beta tested Managed by Stats. My dad works at Managed by Stats. In fact, he still works there today. I went up to him, I went over to his house and I said, "Hey, congratulations, you're hiring me." And he was like, "Why the hell would I hire you?" Like he knew my numbers, right? "Why the hell would I hire you?" Like, "Look, dude, I'm bored. I sleep until 11 o'clock every day. I've exhausted every cat video on YouTube. There are none left that I haven't seen. And I need a team." Like I was my wife was, volunteering at a church for significant number of hours per day. And so I'd end up just like working a few hours but not really. What I should have been doing is expanding my business because your business is either going up or going down. And if it's flat, it's on its way down
Yeah.
unless you make a change and make it go up, right? So for all intents and purposes, these are all things that I learned along the way. Is for all intents and purposes, you're either expanding or contracting, right? At this time, we were growing 20% a year until, yeah. So let me actually back up. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So I went to work for Managed by Stats for fun, right? I knew the software well. I'm a long-term seller at this point. I can help a lot of people, and I truly enjoy helping people, especially Amazon sellers. But I help people in many aspects of life, like disaster response. I used to be a high school teacher for automotive. I'm a master Jaguar technician, so I love to help kids work on cars because, yeah. Anyhow, I think it's important that you can change your oil and stuff like that. So taught a bunch of high schoolers that was fun. Got in trouble for swearing all the time with the principal, but the kids loved it,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I just went in because I needed a group. I needed a little more structure in my life and a schedule to be adhered to and stuff like that. But then I lost my two main brands. And
Before we go any further, though, what was your title at Managed by Stats? What kind of job did you do there?
so I started in tech support and then moved over to being, once I got tired of that, I said, listen, we need to use my capabilities a little bit more. And I went over and I helped build and run the studio. So the podcast, the training videos, the live streams. So I did that. And then I was also strategic partnerships, and affiliates, and then took on a whole bunch of duties as the president.
Okay.
So I kind of held a lot of titles,
And you were able to do all this easily because you knew the software, right? You were using it in your Amazon business.
Oh yeah, yeah. I still have Managed by Stats to this day. So,
Yeah. For anybody that doesn't know, Managed by Stats provides basically analytical dashboards and such for your Amazon business.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so yeah. Sorry, I kind of went on a tirade about how I got started and stuff, and yeah, all of my knowledge up to this point made it so that I could get into the business sector that has spun into existence because of all these Amazon sellers, and I've been able to help more Amazon sellers. So Managed by Stats I was there for nearly 5 years. I loved it. I loved helping the people. I absolutely love meeting sellers, and like everyone's got a unique entry story and a uniquely different problem in their own way to expanding. And I just today I have such an enormous number of contacts into the Amazon area with influencers and softwares and service providers and stuff like that. I'm in a conversation, I can rattle off like, okay, you need to meet this person, and this person. And I'll just do email intros like, hey, go over here for your videography, go over here for your PPC, go see this person for this and that and the other. And you need money. Good. Here's 3 places to check out. They all have different models for money. See what works for you,
And the Managed by Stats is when we met as well, because you started coming to the Tampa Bay Amazon Sellers Meetup group that I became the co-organizer of.
Yeah.
And so you were coming to these groups to learn information, but you were also working for Managed by Stats and promoting their software and making connections and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. So as you well remember, we eventually I think we quickly became a sponsor of yours, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So but ultimately, like, I just like going, and I still go to those meetups, right? As many as I can, as often as I can. And I'll go to any meetup that I can just because like it's very fulfilling for me to be able to help people, That's really it at the end of the day. Is I really enjoy helping people. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So the moral of that is that you took the knowledge you learned in building your business, which
Yep.
went up, you made a bunch of money, and then kind of went down, partly probably due it to the market. And then maybe you were getting bored, like you said, you wanted to do other things. And so you took that knowledge and applied that to getting a job in the Amazon industry.
Yeah, I kind of shouldered my way into the first job. I just informed the company that I was there, and that was that. But just for the record, I still sell today. I'm still a successful seller, and I've been selling solid for the entire 13 years, except for the 4 months that Amazon shut down all of my accounts during COVID. We won't go into that.
Yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah.
But so what have you been
Yeah.
doing then since Managed by Stats? Because I know you've moved into some other positions.
Yeah. So Managed by Stats was acquired by Carbon 6. During that acquisition phase, I transitioned over to Carbon 6 as strategic partnerships, and just had the opportunity to meet lots of other vendors and influencers and just people in the industry. And I brought them into Carbon 6 and offered, we did, co-webinars and co-marketing and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so I was there for just about a year, and then transitioned out of there, and now I'm at TraceFuse, the director of sales at TraceFuse, and I'm starting up, we're putting, so here's a little side thing. As discussed, my wife was operations, right, for our Amazon business. Well, in 2018, we also started having children. We now have 3 absolutely stunningly beautiful daughters who are not going to be allowed out after they're 12 years old, and kind of lost my operations officer,
Sure.
And so our Amazon's been running on automatic, just replenishing inventory and stuff like that. We've not been expanding. So for the last 5 years, we've been contracting. But our last baby is almost a year old now, and we're just getting back into it. We just opened up a whole new wholesale account with some partners. I might even open up another Amazon account with 3 other partners on a adventure outdoor 4x4 group that I'm a part of. And so we're getting back into it. I've started buying inventory again.
You're not thinking to, start a farm or something and go for the 10 kids, 15 kids?
So I asked my wife that, and yeah, we're done having children.
Yeah, I get it.
I would
Three
have,
three is good. That's a perfect number, I think.
yeah. So we actually had planned. I would have as many children as I was allowed to have, because I think that the finest, most hilarious, most wonderful human beings on earth, children, are just so amazing and so funny. But at the same time, they're a lot of work. And my wife and I are no longer spring chickens. And she's like, "No, baby, that third pregnancy was a little tougher on her than the first 2." And she said, "I'm done." So I was, all right, yes, dear. I may be the head of the house, but she's the neck. She turns me whichever way I need to point,
Yeah, that's awesome, though. Building your family, for sure. That's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, all that to say is we are getting back in and ramping up our Amazon. And on the software side of things and services, all this to say, like, even if you only had 6 months experience failing on Amazon, you still know enough to be able to work at many different software or service companies. You just need that basic understanding, that core understanding of Amazon.
Yeah.
And then once you learn a service or a software, that's all you need. And this industry is literally just, I would wager there's billions of dollars revolving around. Well, there's definitely billions of dollars revolving around the sellers, but on the software and service side, at least hundreds of millions of dollars, in that area, in terms of jobs, in terms of services rendered and stuff like that. Lots and lots of money in this industry. And honestly, I wouldn't even know where to point you to find a job except LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn would be really good. I mean, even if you just search on Indeed, if you search for Amazon on Indeed, you'll start seeing a lot of like Amazon account managers and e-commerce managers and stuff like that, which is specific to running someone's Amazon account. And those I've seen 60, 80, $100,000 or more paying for those positions. But Yeah, you're
Cool.
also right with the software side of things. Like we are onboarding with a new software for our business, and there's a guy that's walking us through and showing us how to set up our account. Let's say my business, tanked tomorrow. Once I know a software like that, then you can easily just start working for those software companies as well.
Yeah, for sure. And you don't have to have success really to have the knowledge necessary to help others if there's a software that can do the majority of the work. And then you can take that knowledge of that software yourself and implement it into your own life. I mean, that's what I did with Manage My Stats, right?
Yep.
So, and there are lots of jobs available.
Yeah, it's like you're getting a college degree in the Amazon world. So all that work that you're doing, whatever it is, or if you get to a point and you're like, okay, I don't really want to grow any bigger than this. I like this as my side hustle. It's making me good income. I don't have to do a lot of work on it. Now I'm going to go work for someone else. I think I'd rather do that. There's just so much opportunity out there with the knowledge that you learn. And I think a lot of people don't think of that. They're
Yeah.
afraid if they fail, they're going to lose everything. And that's not necessarily the case. You're learning a skill.
Yeah. Yeah, let's actually dive a little bit into that failure. I didn't go into any of my failures, and there have been a lot. We have wasted just gobs of money.
Every
Completely.
successful seller, every successful entrepreneur has more failures than most people in the world. So,
Yeah. So our very first private label product, I literally put it in the dumpster. Oddly enough, I did sell enough to make some profit, but I still had hundreds and hundreds of units, and it was like the iPhone 6 case.
oh, geez.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we still made some profit. I think it was like $90 profit on after everything. But yeah, I put that in the dumpster because then iPhone 7 came out. That was kind of done, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. The iPhone case is not an industry I would want to go in myself.
No. No. And since then I've done handmade knives and camping blankets. Um let's see. We had a three-step beauty brand called Aquila, which actually I quite liked the branding on that and stuff like that, but I just do not, neither myself or my wife, we do not care about beauty stuff.
Mhm.
And we had a partner on that, and the partner decided, you know what, I'm kind of done with this. This partner had a non compete that limited what they could do, and we didn't realize that was going to be an issue when we started and ordered the inventory and got all the branding and stuff like that. And it went well for a while, but yeah, we've done quite a few different private label stuff. But honestly, I really enjoyed the wholesale side of things. And Todd, I know that you are almost entirely wholesale. You're like 90+% wholesale, right?
Correct. Yeah. Mostly wholesale. We're really moving into the exclusive wholesale
Yeah.
you have experience with. Just to
Mhm.
get that buy box all to yourself makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, I know we've had quite a few conversations about that over the last couple of years, and I fully support that move, and I have no doubt you are doing it in a much more sophisticated fashion than I did. Literally to this day, all the contracts that I have on the products that we sell, it's a handshake with the CEO.
Mhm. Yeah. No, we have a written exclusive agreement that's auto renews every year if they
Yeah,
don't tell us 60 days ahead of time. So
yeah,
it's it's important, I think, to have that in place. Just
I
even
agree.
if they decided to be done with me, it's not like I'm going to sue them or something like that. But at
Right.
least you have something in place, what each party is supposed to be doing, and it holds everyone a little more accountable.
Absolutely, and I fully support that 100%. But honestly, I still like I'm talking to a brand now. I'm still on a handshake with this brand that I'm talking to right now. You know, it's um yeah, it's but also you have a warehouse, you have staff, um, you have expenses, you have all the things that I don't want, right? Every brand that I've ever onboarded, we just send them a shipping label and say, please send this many units to Amazon. I have no inventory. I have no overhead. All we invest is a bit of sweat equity, and then we just take our profits out of that. Now, and it's all on a handshake. It's a good old boy system. And that is not a good business model long term if you want to build something like what you are building, Todd. If you want a business that does millions of dollars in revenue, and Todd, I think you have pretty good margins. You're around 15 to 30% margins on your sales, correct?
So our bottom line net is usually around 10%.
Okay. That's about where I'm at too now. But now I am. I didn't used to be, but now I am. So, but if you want, like, as you bring more brands on, you're also buying the inventory up front, aren't you?
Correct. Yeah. So we've got about $1 million in inventory.
Yeah. So I have zero expense on my inventory. I get it on consignment. And I just pay it as it sells. So, like, these are two models. I fully support your model. It is a much more sustainable model long term. I have a friend who is one of the largest sellers on all of Amazon.com. He goes between top 50 and top 100. Mm-hmm. And I know you know who I'm talking about.
Yep.
And he said that he has a 15% attrition rate on wholesale contracts. So
that's about right.
Yeah. So you and that goes back to you're either expanding or contracting methodology or ideology or whatever ology you want to call it. You always have to be adding to your business. Otherwise, you're going to lose 15% per year plus 4% on inflation and plus any
4%.
Yeah, that's right. What was it that most recently last year? 8 or 9 or 12%? Or
unofficially, probably more like 16.
Yeah. My bills definitely went up. Some of them went up by double.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Triple when you keep adding children.
Oh yeah. Yeah, built-in inflation right there.
Yeah, exactly.
They eat more and more every year.
They do, yeah. And having all girls, they're going to require more and more each year too.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so again, my ideal scenario is that I don't have to touch anything. All we just have to do is manage the brand. But it's not sustainable long term. And I have 13 years experience to prove that out to you. Like, I have brought on and lost brands just over and over and over again. And I'm on my last brand right now that's on a handshake deal that I've been selling them for nearly 10, probably close to 10 years. But I've not been able to get a hold of the CEO since COVID started. Literally, I cannot get no text messages, no emails, no phone calls, cannot get a hold of them. So
I've had that happen too with companies you're working with. They just stop replying unless you send them a purchase order. They'll reply to them. That's about it.
But that's and we do that. Like, we just say, hey, send this many in, but it's just one of their staff members, So I don't know what's going on there and why they won't get back to me, but they have an additional 55 SKUs that I can be selling. I'm like, come on, let's do this.
Yeah.
But
so we're coming up on our time limit here. Yeah. But so the current position you have with Trace Fuse, let's dive into that a little bit more, and then we can wrap it up. How did you move into that, and what are you currently doing with them?
Yeah. So when I transitioned out of Carbon 6, I really wanted to be either in sales or back doing strategic partnerships. And this was, I had been talking to the CEO of Trace Fuse. His name is Shane. He's an amazing guy. I really, really have a lot of respect for him. But I've been talking to him, and he reached out to me to help him find someone to run strategic partnerships and then also find someone that could be a director of sales. I didn't know that he was trying to get me at this time. And I'd just taken on a contract. I was like, yeah, man, I just took on this contract. And he's like, oh, great. Dang it. Because that call was where he was going to offer me a position and I had no idea. And once that contract was done, I just reached out to him like, hey, are you still looking for director of sales and someone to do strategic partnerships? He said, yeah, I am. I'm like, okay, hypothetically, if I were available, would you want me? He's like, 1,000% yes, you've got the job. I'm like, okay, that was a fairly easy interview.
Very good.
So yeah, the rest of course is details, but I'm the director of sales, but given my network in the Amazon community, I'm also strategic partnerships. And I'm about to, after this podcast, I got to shoot him a text messages. Hey, listen, I need to take over affiliates as well. Because it really, strategic partnerships and affiliates, they go hand in hand, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we'll have to probably get together again and maybe do a whole podcast on what Trace Fuse does, but let's
Sure.
give us a high level overview of what they do.
Yeah. So basically what we do is remove negative reviews from your products that violate Amazon's terms of service. So we'll download all your reviews. We'll look at how many critical reviews you have, which are 1, 2, and 3 stars. And as long as you've got 500 critical reviews, we can take you on as a customer. And we'll start filing cases for you. And our AI is going to run through that and spit out all of the cases, all of the reviews that violate Amazon's terms of service. So these would be things like pricing information, competitor information, shipping, FBA related foul language, and stuff like that. And we'll start filing cases on that through your Seller Central account and basically provide Amazon with all the information saying, hey, look, Amazon, here's this review. This is what it says. This is the section of your TOS that it violates. Please remove this review, right? It actually goes a little further than that. And where we do like these racketeering cases, we call it like a RICO case, right? Where we'll find these accounts, our AI is looking for anomalies in the data where, let's say, Billy in Tucson and Beth in LA and George in New York all write exactly the same review with the exactly same punctuation on the same day or within a couple of days of each other. We start making that connection and we'll actually build an escalation case and send up to Amazon. And our craziest story yet is that we had 177 reviews removed in one escalation case.
Oh, wow. So
you can imagine
was leaving negative reviews.
Yeah. You can imagine what, like, that seller's BSR and daily sales went bonkers, like absolutely bonkers. But yeah, so that's what we do. And for anyone that's listening to this, if you want to know more, just reach out through Todd and you can get a hold of me.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the best place where someone could reach out to you if they wanted to get a hold of you directly?
Yeah, so if you want to get a hold of me directly, it's Danan at tracefuse.ai. That's my email. Although I do recommend that you just go to our website, tracefuse.ai, and right as soon as you get on there, you're going to be able to book an appointment, because it may not be with me, because we're actually building the CEO and I are building a sales team right now. But yeah, so just book an appointment and we can go over your critical reviews and what we do and pricing information and all of that. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. We'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. But
sure.
This has been really good, Dan. And I think, people are really going to see that the knowledge that they're learning on Amazon, even if they fail, air quotes, right? Because every failure is a learning experience. They can take that knowledge and get into all kinds of different types of jobs if that's the path that they choose. So nothing that they're learning here is going to go to waste if they, work hard, learn the knowledge, and put it into something productive.
100%. If I could just close out with a couple of statements I'd like to make, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Number one, it's always the right time to get started now. Number two, there is room for you, whether you want to be a seller or whether you want to be on the service and on a job side of things. Number three, this place is expanding, not just Amazon, but e-commerce in general. So, if you think you can't find a job, well, I'm afraid that you're just not doing it right and you're not looking hard enough, because they're out there. So don't be afraid to fail. Use it as a learning experience. Like the light bulb wasn't made perfect in one day. That I think that he had hundreds of failures. Yep. And I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially what he said when he was making the light bulb is, I didn't fail 100 times. I figured out 100 ways not to do it again, kind of sort of like that, right? Yep. Yep. And so your knowledge that you're learning and have learned up to this point is valuable and usable in order to generate an income for yourself. So I urge you to just take action, because you miss 100% of the targets you don't shoot for.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with everything you said there. So I think that's the perfect place to wrap it up. I appreciate it, Danan, for you coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Look forward to talking to you next time.
Thanks, buddy. Good to be here. Thank you so much.
This has been another episode of the Amazon Seller School Podcast. Thanks for listening, fellow Amazon seller. And always remember, success is yours if you take it.